Charity Dingle's family are left shaken and fearful for her safety on Emmerdale next week after she disappears, eventually ending up dangerously close to a lake's edge. Her panicked husband, Mackenzie Boyd, alerts the police when the family cannot track her down, certain she may be a threat to herself. Mack still assumes Charity's distress is linked to postnatal depression, unaware of the horrific sexual assault carried out by Dr Todd. However, the full extent of Charity's emotional torment becomes clear when a stranger discovers her in a distressed state. Charity has reached breaking point and can't continue like this. She is deeply traumatized, explains a village insider. She ends up driving away and arrives at the lake where she simply freezes, staring out while clearly on the verge of a total breakdown. After everything she has endured, Charity is unable to handle the emotional weight. She urgently needs support. Mack and Sarah Sugden have been attempting to support Charity over recent weeks, noticing her struggle, but they are unaware that Todd assaulted her or that the case remains difficult to prove due to inconclusive evidence. Whenever Mack tries to reach out, Charity understandably shuts him down, as the scale of what Todd did, along with the devastating secret surrounding baby Leyla's paternity, becomes too overwhelming. So when Charity suddenly drives off, Mack gathers the family and asks them to search for her, fearing something serious may happen. Fortunately, as she sits by the water, a passing woman spots Charity and approaches to check on her, but when the stranger tries to comfort her, Charity responds with aggression. The moment the woman attempts to touch her, Charity lashes out and strikes her, says an insider. It's an instinctive reaction that leaves Charity horrified by what she has done. But instead of walking away, the kind stranger accepts her apology and suggests her reaction may come from past experiences of unwanted touch. She is absolutely right, and Charity slowly begins to open up about her ordeal. As things develop at the lake, back home, Mack speaks with the police about Charity and his growing concerns for her safety. Desperate for any clue that might help, Mack turns to Dingle and urges her to share anything she might know. The question remains whether Chas will finally be truthful now that the situation has become so serious. Cain Dingle's struggle with incontinence on Emmerdale is helping shift how the condition is viewed, making him one of the most impactful characters for changing public perceptions. Already dealing with an aggressive, localized form of prostate cancer, Cain is now experiencing urinary incontinence following a prostatectomy and the removal of his catheter. It emerges that the garage he owns has no toilet, meaning staff are expected to use facilities at the Woolpack, an unexpected inconvenience that has only recently come to light. As someone living with Crohn's disease, an inflammatory bowel condition, I have experienced fecal incontinence, and it is reassuring to see the reality reflected on screen. Pearl Avery, IBD nursing lead at Crohn's and Colitis UK, told Metro that anything that shines a light on incontinence matters, pointing out that stigma still forces many people to suffer in silence. Cain is clearly embarrassed by his condition, and that feeling is familiar to me. There have been times I've avoided social plans without explaining why. Like Cain, a lack of suitable facilities has had a real impact on daily life. At one workplace, where there was no running water, staff were told to use toilets in a neighbouring building. Worried about not getting there in time, I explained I could not manage under those conditions, and left. Urgency is often the only warning sign. In some cases, people experience passive incontinence, where leakage happens without control or warning. It can be deeply distressing and isolating, yet incontinence is far more common than many realise. Prostate cancer treatment, for example, can lead to both urinary and bowel incontinence, sometimes long-term. Despite this, the subject is still rarely discussed openly, particularly among men. Prostate Cancer UK has worked with Emmerdale on the storyline, and specialist nurse Meg Burgess explained that for many men, the issue remains hidden. She said, Cain's story is important because up to 60% of men may experience incontinence for a time after radical prostate cancer surgery, and because it highlights the support available. Men can leak too, she said, stressing that those 4 words can help break a taboo affecting hundreds of thousands of people across the UK. Pearl Avery of Crohn's and Colitis UK also highlighted why placing Kane at the centre of this storyline matters. Because he is portrayed as a traditionally tough character, the storyline reaches audiences who might otherwise avoid or ignore the subject. For people living with Crohn's or colitis, bowel symptoms can cause embarrassment and isolation, and seeing it represented can help reduce stigma and encourage openness. Characters like Kane can help challenge the shame surrounding incontinence, but only if the issue is shown honestly, including its most difficult moments. After being arrested for public urination following a confrontation with police, Kane initially hid the fact that cancer treatment had affected his bladder before eventually confiding in his wife Moira. Since then, he has been adjusting to changes in his lifestyle, including limiting alcohol intake and being advised to do pelvic floor exercises to improve bladder control. In my own case, I eventually learned that surgery for an anal fistula and a bowel resection had weakened the nerves and muscles controlling bowel function. Although there is no perfect solution, managing Crohn's can reduce symptoms, though treatment itself can sometimes contribute to complications, creating a difficult balance. After persistent effort, I was referred to a dietitian, as certain foods can help reduce diarrhea and, in turn, ease incontinence. While dietary changes and medication have helped reduce urgency, responses vary widely between people with IBD. Even with improvements, access to toilets remains a constant concern, especially when public facilities are unavailable, poorly maintained, or require payment. Seeing Kane avoid liquids ahead of travel felt familiar, reflecting the extreme measures people sometimes take to manage uncertainty. Emmerdale has also shown practical solutions, such as leak-proof underwear suggested by Dr. Liam Kavanagh, which reflects real-life coping strategies. As a long-running drama, the show is using its platform to explore incontinence in a way that feels grounded and continuous, rather than brief or superficial. This kind of representation helps challenge stigma and can shift attitudes over time. Emmerdale deserves credit for continuing to portray the issue with honesty and depth. Archie and Kerry find themselves in serious trouble next week when their dangerous AI-driven scam is uncovered. As they try to squeeze even more money out of Caleb, their plan is interrupted by a shocked Eric, leaving them scrambling for an explanation. In recent episodes of the ITV soap, Archie relied on artificial intelligence to impersonate Caleb's daughter, Steph, in a bid to obtain money. Believing the request was genuine and intended as a deposit for Steph's London flat, Caleb transferred the cash without hesitation. After the teenager began spending lavishly on expensive technology, Kerry grew suspicious. Although she first encouraged him to tell the truth, Caleb's cutting remarks changed her perspective, leading her to become involved in the deception herself. In Monday's episode, Kerry shuts the shop early so she and an uneasy Archie can move forward with the next stage of their scheme. They contact Caleb once more, pretending to be Steph. In a newly released spoiler clip, Archie carefully types responses while an AI program converts the text into Steph's voice. The fake Steph chats casually with her parents, blaming slow replies on a poor phone connection. When Ruby mentions news about Steph's former boyfriend Ross, who is now dating Laurel, Kerry takes control of the conversation. She jokes that Laurel is about twice his age, before subtly shifting the discussion towards finances. The pair attempt to persuade Caleb to hand over another £5,000, but their efforts are interrupted when Eric demands to know exactly what they are doing. He snatches the laptop, causing the AI software to fail and alerting Caleb to the fraud. Now that Caleb has realized he has been tricked, the question is how long Kerry can keep her involvement hidden. Meanwhile, Eric faces a dilemma of his own. Will he expose his family members, despite having a history of questionable schemes himself? Emmerdale is broadcast on weekday evenings at 8 p.m. on ITV1. Episodes are also available to watch from 7 a.m. each day on ITVX and YouTube.